Now that you have seen both reactive forms and template-driven forms, you have learned that they are both great for handling form inputs and validations, but they have different features and advantages. Reactive forms are often considered better than template-driven forms for different reasons, but the two main ones are that they give you more control and flexibility and complex validations. Reactive forms offer more control and flexibility over your form logic because you can define form controls and their validators programmatically, which gives you advantage for complex forms with dynamic behavior. On this part, you'll learn how to create two custom validators. One is going to be used to check for invalid domain, and the other one will be used to check for inappropriate keywords. So let us go to our code. So in here, the first thing that I'll do is that I'll just go to the Explorer, and then in the Explorer, inside the source folder, then app, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to name this folder the validators. And then inside here, I'm going to create the first class, which is going to be email. So email validator.ts. So a TypeScript. And in here, I'm just going to export a function. I'm going to name this function the email domain validator. This is going to take a single parameter named domain of type string. And this is going to be of type validator fn. The validator fn belongs to the Angular forms. Now inside here, I'll open the curly brackets. I'm going to return. I'll have in here control. This is going to be abstract control. And this will have the validation errors or null. So it's going to be the validation errors or null. And then that goes to inside curly brackets. I'm going to check now for the email value. So for that, I'll just type const email is equal to control.value as string. Now here, I'll check if the email that ends with the domain. I'm just going to return null. Turn null. Otherwise, else, I'm going to return invalid domain. So invalid domain is going to be true. Let us just rename this file. Actually, I'll just rename this file to, let's say, email.validator. And now let us go to the feedback.component.ts. In here, on the email, we're going to have validators.required, validators.email. We want to also use the email validator, or let's just go to here. Let's check the name, email domain validator. This is what we want to use. And we want to check if this ends, so if the domain is at trupia.com. Let us import the email domain validator, and that is from the source app validators email validator. Let us now just go to the feedback.component.html and then go to the email address. In here, we're going to add one more check. If the feedback form.get email address and then has an error, and for the value in here, you need to go to the email validator. So if it has an error with invalid domain, then invalid domain. Let us save the change and go to the browser. So now in here, if I just type this, I have invalid format and invalid domain. Let me add .com. You'll see invalid domain. Now if I add at trupia.com, you see that the domain is also valid So the error is gone. Now we're going to create another custom validator, and this validator will be used to check for inappropriate keywords, and we're going to name it inappropriate keywords validator. So for that, let's just go to the code. And then in here, I'm just going to the source. And then inside the validators, I'll just add a new validator. This is going to be keywords.validator.ts. Now I'm using validator in here just for naming convention, but if you want, you don't have to use it. So the same way as in the other custom validator, the first thing you need to do is that you need to export a function. So export a function, and then in here, the name of the function in appropriate keywords validator. This takes as a parameter keywords, and this is going to be an array of strings. So string, and then it's going to be validator fn. Then we're going to return control, which is of type abstract control. And the return type is going to be either a validation errors or a null. So if the validation is successful, then we're going to return a null. Otherwise, we have to return error. Let's get the feedback. So const text maybe is equal to control.value as a string. And then if or for a const keyword of the keywords array, we want to check if we have any of the values. So for that, if text dot to lowercase, and then we'll check if this will include any of the keywords that includes keyword. Then we're going to return, let's say, inappropriate it's going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to return null, or just return null down here. And this is all you need to do. Let us import the namespace for this one. Validation errors or null. That goes to, what's the error in here? It says that the function lacks ending return statement and return type does not include undefined. So let me actually try this way. So after the for, then we need to return null. Okay, let us go to the feedback.component.ts, and in here we want to check for inappropriate words in feedback. For that, comma, and then let's go and check the name, appropriate keywords validator, and this is going to validate for the following keywords. Let's say spam, bot. These are the two keywords. Let us import the inappropriate keywords validator. Now let us just go to feedback.component.html and then scroll down in here to feedback. Just copy this one, paste it in here. Now we are going to check for feedback.getFeedback, and then if it has any errors in the inappropriate keyword, if yes, then remove inappropriate keywords. Let us go to the app, and now in here I'll just add feedback. This is feedback. If I remove, this is going to be required. If I use keywords like bot, it says remove inappropriate keywords. If I use keywords like spam, it says remove inappropriate keywords.